We are back once again with Erika Brown, publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming at us from the Cricket offices over Manchester by the Sea. How are you, Erika?
Yeah, and I got the memo today on what I was going to wear because you and I, we kind of match. It's
Yeah,
like
we're going on safari later.
we look like we're a middle class suburban American couple going on vacation.
We need matching jogging suits, I
We'll
think.
go
We
to
should,
Florida.
yeah, we should. Too funny. Okay,
No
now,
offense.
all things aside, you are up to your eyeballs in all kinds of action over there in Manchester and Essex. First of all, let's, I guess, recap the highlights from the past week's town meeting.
Yeah, well, which
Manchester,
town
that
meeting are
is.
you talking about? Are we
Yeah,
talking about
Manchester's
Manchester
town
town
meeting.
meeting? And
Yeah.
you can tell from my face that I'm like all beat up. I'm like, so just so much stuff. But anyway, yes, Monday night was Manchester town meeting, and I would give you basically three highlights from Manchester town meeting, really. One of them was, well, I guess one of them is it went successfany. Over 300 people showed up, and they passed the change to the limited commercial district kind of bylaw. And they approved a change of use in the limited commercial district. And really, it's all about self-signaling, about changing the use to allow for biomedical labs or labs, so that cell signaling, which has put a 40-acre piece of property under agreement behind the Manchester Athletic Club for the purpose of building a campus, a corporate campus there. It essentially gives them the ability to go through the application process, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it. And they needed it to be passed at town meeting. So it's not a guarantee. There's been a lot of confusion about that. It just means that it's an allowed use now as a result. And it went through like butter. I mean, it was like, I think 80 people voted against it. Everyone else voted for it. So it was a real solid win for them. And that means that cell signaling now can proceed with that purchase. It also means that they can proceed with applying for proper permits through the proper process. A lot of people thought that that was just approving them doing what they want. It's not. It's approving their ability to apply. So then the second thing that happened was, and this was the thing that got the most debate, was the debate between whether or not to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to the Select Board. And that actually also passed, but it didn't pass without a lot of discussion. It's funny, you and I were joking about it a couple weeks ago, and right after, I shouldn't say we're joking about it. We're joking about the fact that there was one selectman at the time, now a select board member, who basically said that she wasn't going to approve it. And I didn't say who she was or that it was a gender, what gender she was, because I didn't want to call her out. But she called herself out and wrote the best letter to the editor, where she said, as a son, S-O-N, and my name is Ann Harris, son, and I am a human, I don't care that I'm called a select man. It was really very clever. So a lot of people, a lot of discussion, but in the end, the people who voted for it would probably say progress kind of prevailed, and it actually ended up. So now we're with the select board. There are many municipalities in the Commonwealth that have made this decision. And, in a world where gender is something that is chosen and in terms of identity, and in the world where it's not all men, and this is going back, that's what's happened. So
Yeah, I think actually the city of Gloucester is refreshing the city charter to update
right.
the language too. Yeah, same deal. Interesting.
So the third thing was Eli Bowling, which isn't really about it's kind of transitioning out of the annual town meeting. But the reason why I brought it up is because he was kind of feted at the end of the meeting, and he was presented with a retirement chair. So he is a two-time chairman of the Board of Selectmen, now the Select Board. And he's really kind of important. He's been in office for 9 years, volunteering. He started in 2013, which was the same year that Greg Federspiel became the town administrator. So they were kind of, twinned in that way. Eli Bowling has really deserves to be called out, because he's almost like, I would describe him like a metronome, like one of those timers when you play piano, tick, 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 tick. He's so steady. And think about what he's sort of managed the board through. He's managed it through COVID-19 pandemic, which is, state of emergency shutdowns, quarantines, testing, reporting, all that stuff, dealing with the state, Board of Health, everything. He also, he started off with the master plan, finalization of the master plan, which was a big, big, big job. And then he also, the 40B, that was also a big thing because that was through the BOS, and it was decided that it was going to be, sort of an unfriendly, application process, but he led that whole thing. And then he's also set up the future in a big way. Great guy, a real, I'm not going to say it's a loss because he's still going to be involved after arrest. His wife, Penelope, she's amazing. She's very happy.
Yeah.
But 9 years.
She gets Eli back now?
Yeah, Eli back. So a shout out to Eli Bowling.
Yeah, and we had him on Cape Ann today. We were at Festival by the Sea at Masco Park a couple of years ago. He was a great guest to have and learned a lot just from those few minutes we got to spend with him. So congratulations, Eli.
He's just a really productive guy, even-handed is what I'd say actually about him, and extremely insightful and intelligent, and also real technologically kind of forward thinking, which is not always a given with a town board, right?
True. Oh, great point. All right, cheers, Eli. Okay, lastly, Erika, we have a couple of big elections upcoming.
Yeah, we have the first of sort of two parts on local elections. And what we do is we cover the elections that are races where it's actually contested. So the contested race that we spent the big amount of time on to introduce people to the candidates is the Manchester Board of Selectmen, now the Select Board. I'm going to have to do that every time for the next weeks. Select Board. We have 3 people vying for 2 seats. So I'm going to do this in alphabetical order so I'm not in trouble, but it's Catherine Bellata. She is a COVID era, newcomer to town. She is a retired decades long at Raytheon executive. So she is one of those professional types who actually brings the benefit of the way projects and processes and initiatives are supposed to be done kind of thing. That's her big thing, which is what's the strategy? How do we get there? As opposed to an emotional kind of, I don't like that. That's not good for our town, kind of thing. So that's kind of her thing. Then we have Jeff Bodmer Turner. He is the current chairman of the board of the Select Board. How's that, right?
Yep, they're getting better.
He's the current chairman. He's been the chairman for, I think, a year or less, something like that. He took over from Eli Bowling. And he is somebody who is very pro-environmental oriented, environmental impact. He's kind of against the 40B. He is overtly kind of thing, keep our town charming, keep the charm of our town language. And he's going for re-election. And then we have Brian Solacey, who we did talk about not so long ago. And it's so funny. He's somebody who's always been kind of a character in town. And I mean that in the best possible way. He is literally known. He's very high profile in ways that are very non-official. For instance, I think we talked about the fact that he's a long time kind of player in this kind of Trivial Pursuit meet at 7 Central, every Thursday night, which in Manchester is a big thing, actually. And they migrated to the morning for a little while. I don't know where they are right now, but he's part of that gang, which is interesting. He also is part of the, his daughter is sort of this just popular entrant to the cardboard box regatta, which is a crazy awesome event that brings out everybody. So that's also like unofficial, but yet official. And then the big thing that I think is going to weigh a lot in an election is he has been for the last 25 years, he has been a referee in the kids club basketball league, sort of the so he's that guy. He also happens to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and he is he was in the development space, real estate development, a while ago. I think he might still be. So anyway, so that's Brian Solacey. He's somebody who also talks about planning and about sort of keeping the charm of our town, but he's also for outdoor dining. He comes out and says that. He also comes out and says he's against regional dispatch, which the other 2 candidates don't do, and that's a very hot issue. So that's going on then. We are having this Wednesday with 1623 meet the candidate night, a forum where we're going to actually talk to them on Wednesday night at the high school, in the high school auditorium. It's at 6 o'clock. If anybody wants to come, you're more than welcome to come. You can ask your own questions, but we're going to have like 5 or 8 questions for all of them. And then it's going to air on 1623 afterwards. So
very nice.
You get to know them.
And we do want to throw out a couple of big dates. Today is Essex Town Meeting. Next Monday, the 9th, is the election. So
that's a perfect segue, because there's, and not to plug the Cricket, but go to thecricket.com and look this up, because we interviewed both candidates for the planning board over in Essex. That election, you're right, is next week, and that is contested. And that's between incumbent Matt Greco, who is going for, this is a 5-year term on the planning board, and then newcomer Brett Prince, who moved, not for COVID, but he moved to Essex in 2018 because of a job. He works for Abiomed, which is in Danvers. He's a healthcare marketing executive. Now he works for Fresenius, which is dialysis. Home dialysis is his thing. So anyway, very interesting. Brett Prince is really, his message was one about clarity, about the zoning bylaws and what's allowed in Essex and how is it enforced. That's a big one. And he also wants to just bring a bigger level of engagement with the public and voters and residents and businesses into the planning board and bylaws earlier, so that they can actually have an impact in the process, as opposed to bringing in public comment after they've already started doing something. Matt Greco is basically saying, I've been on for 5 years. This is a critical time for Essex in terms of planning and the bylaw and zoning. I'd like to follow this through. We've done a lot of important work. I want to finish it. He is somebody who is a project manager or a project scheduler with big infrastructure projects, like think roads and bridges. Works for like Mass DOT and Massport, that level of kind of project management and construction. And the planning board, remember, has been going through at the center of the most dramatic changes in Essex. Last year, a year ago now, they voted in a new downtown zoning district, the first in its entire history of the town. And they also put a moratorium on change of use from residential to commercial, so that they can take on the task with MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, of looking at the whole Megillah, of deciding like what we're going to do. And I think they have a timeline of either a year from now or a year and a half from now. It's one or the other. It depends on town meeting, where they're going to actually come up with a formal recommendation. They've been doing surveys of of townspeople and businesses to really get an idea of the structure, because they have big revenue things that are coming up, including, schools. They have, like just big obligations that they have to do. And they're looking to structure this on purpose. And really the centerpiece and the focal point of this is the board at BOS, because over there it is still the BOS, and the planning board. And so there's this idea of, do we want continuity or do we want sort of a fresh thing? And that's sort of what they are. They don't know of each other. It's not like it's a race where they're like, I'm better than him. It's not, none of that is part of this. It's just 2 people who say, I think I'm the better person to, be in that seat for the next 5 years.
Gotcha. Well,
I know I was talking fast, but there was a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a crazy time right now. There's a ton of things happening, not just events, but I mean, these are big municipal things going on. So we're glad we're with you this week to help you out with the Wednesday night episode. And then we'll just have to stay in touch. We'll have to keep us on top of all of these things happening, because I think things are just going to start happening fast now. May, June, here it comes. So
next week we'll be talking school committee candidates, because that's another contested election in Manchester. It's not a contested election in Essex. They only have 1 candidate for school board for 1 seat, but in Manchester it's 5 candidates. So we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. So Erika, we should say too that Manchester voters okayed the school budget, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can talk about that next week. They okayed the school budget, but the town meeting at Essex tonight is where the fireworks are going to be, in terms of looking at the school budget and looking at the future of Essex and its role in the budget and the school district, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, pretty complex. Okay, thanks for your time, Erika. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Kory. I'll check with your wardrobe next week.
Yeah, we will. Heather's in for a surprise.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.